Previously on Gears.
See how it goes. All right, time to talk Formula One.
This F1 feature is proudly brought to you by Pirelli and Tyre. Stand a chance to win a trip to any 2014 F1 Grand Prix. Find out more at twt.to.
All right, before we get into yesterday's Grand Prix in Korea, let's give you some of the news that has landed this morning. And, well, of course, we have got a Formula One week this week, and that'll be in Japan. But big news came out of the Bild newspaper in Germany, very reputable newspaper as well, saying that Ross Brawn will be leaving Mercedes at the end of this season. Niki Lauda, the team boss, has come out and said, I'm in negotiations with Ross Brawn. There's no decision on how things will be in the long term. That's the situation, and that's been the situation for some time. My goal is clearly to retain him, but he will only make the decision at the end of the year. Now, could Ross Brawn be the technical prowess that McLaren have said will be joining them? So could Ross Brawn go from Mercedes to McLaren? I'm not entirely sure, but we'll wait and see. The one reason he could go to McLaren is, don't forget, in 2015, Honda go back to McLaren, and Ross Brawn, well, even though they had a Mercedes engine, he brought Honda basically a championship with Brawn back in the day. So there could be a tie-up there. But Ross Brawn, of course, I think will let us know as soon as those rumours, well, disappear somewhere along the line. Let's have a look at yesterday's Grand Prix. Did you manage to see it at all, Daisy, or were you busy out flirtatiousing around?
I watched like the last 20 laps.
Ah, okay. Which is not bad.
Yeah, because I actually was sleeping.
Oh.
And then Jake phoned me and he was like, do you know that the F1 race is on? And I was like, oh, damn.
I bet you didn't do the Super Bowl either.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Yesterday's Grand Prix, and listen, let it be said, for the last 4 races in Formula One, Mr. Untouchable, that's what I'm calling him, Sebastian Vettel has romped home to victory in all of them, all right? With consummate ease, it must be said as well. The package that he has together with Red Bull is just streets ahead of everybody else. But yesterday, behind him, and as we've seen in Singapore, and we saw it in Monza, and we saw it in Belgium as well, we had one of the races of the year. It was meteoric and it was epic. It might not have filled the stands in Korea, but I mentioned a little bit earlier, unfortunately, Korea doesn't really have a motoring or motor racing history at this stage. It's developing. And also the track is 6 hours away from one of the major cities of Seoul, so it's quite difficult to get people there. But there were still people in the crowd, in the stands, and I think those who were there enjoyed a fascinating race. At the start, it was Vettel who managed to get away, and there was a little bit of, well, it got a bit tight at turn 1, but at turn 3, Massa nearly took out his teammate Alonso, and we had the fast-charging Nico Hülkenberg who managed to get up a couple of places and basically held his own. So, compliments of Planet F1, who are now one of my contributors to my website. Let's go through what they picked up from the Grand Prix. The star of the race, without a doubt, yesterday was Nico Hülkenberg. That's why I'm wearing my Sauber shirt. The Hulk, and I've been a great advocate of the Hulk for many, many years. Even in his days where he was in GP2, he did some A1 racing as well. I said, watch this guy. Nico Hülkenberg has one problem. He's just too tall. So he raced in Williams and he did very well. He even got a pole position in Brazil a few years ago. But he's never really been in a strong enough car. He had a good race last year with at the same Grand Prix in the Force India. This year he was in the Sauber. Now, after the great performance from Esteban Gutierrez as well as Hülkenberg in Singapore, it was a question of, well, can Sauber maintain the momentum? Yesterday, the Sauber in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg was, in my opinion, was probably the second fastest car on the track. Well, maybe third. I think maybe the Lotus was just a little bit quicker than him. We had a safety car intervention yesterday. We had 2 incidents. One, Paul di Resta, unfortunately, just having a really rough time about Formula One at the moment. Crashed his car, but that wasn't the major incident. We had a major incident with Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez was driving down the long straight. Now, before anybody starts getting overly critical about Pirelli and their tires, let us just tell you that the drivers, the teams all know how critical the front right at the Korean Grand Prix really is. So pushing the tires beyond the limit of what is suggested is a very, very big risk. The problem with Sergio Perez is he flat spotted the tire just about at the end of its life cycle. And from there, with having the flat spot, he got himself a little bit of a puncture, and that unfortunately caused the carcass of the tire to basically fly off. Created a huge amount of debris on the circuit, and that caused the safety car to come out. So, Vettel's sort of lead of about 9 seconds was eroded down to 0, and he had the likes of Romain Grosjean chasing him. But because of the pit stop, and Kimi Raikkonen had made a pit stop just sort of luckily at the right time, Kimi Raikkonen came out and was ahead of Romain Grosjean, much to the Frenchman's disappointment. After that, the safety car went into the pits. A lap later, unfortunately, Adrian Sutil lost his Force India and sideswiped the Red Bull of Mark Webber, who was having a terrific race racing through the field, even though he had a puncture on one of his tires as well. And unfortunately, this caused the Red Bull to catch a light. Now, it's unconfirmed, but Webber thinks maybe with the impact, the KERS system may have got a little bit out of control and created the fire. So the problem was, now the car was on fire. I was sitting and going, where are the marshals? Marshals are trying to come out and figure out, okay, we need to put this out. And then bizarrely, we had the shot of this Jeep driving up the straight. And I went, oh my word, that's not the safety car. But the FIA had instructed the Jeep to go out there because it had more fire extinguishers, etc., to go and put the fire out. So we had a second safety car intervention. And from there, we had just this terrific race. Romain Grosjean was quicker than Kimi Raikkonen, and he was told by his team, well, you can race. But to pass is not that easy, especially on your own teammate. Raikkonen got it right when he did overtake Grosjean before the yellow flags came out, and that basically put pay to Grosjean. Grosjean's got to learn to just control his temperament a little bit more, and I tell you, he's definitely the star that I've always believed that he is. So we had this race with Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen for second and third position, but behind there we had this incredible battle with Nico Hülkenberg, with Lewis Hamilton right behind him and Fernando Alonso right behind Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton tried everything to get past Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg and that Sauber had traction, I've got no idea, especially out of turn 1. The car just pulled away, and Lewis Hamilton was basically just stuck and frustrated behind Hülkenberg the whole day. You got to say that was one of Hülkenberg's best drives in Formula One. The fact that he just managed for a good 20 laps to hold and keep the likes of Lewis Hamilton and the likes of Fernando Alonso behind him the whole way, I think was a terrific, terrific drive. Other drivers who I think won't be overly happy with the result, but will be happy that they maybe got into the points. That would be Jenson Button and Sergio Perez. They qualified out of the top 10, but they did manage to get into the points as well. Also, a couple of DNFs, unfortunately. Mark Webber, I mean, he's finishing his Formula One career, and it's just not working out for him, unfortunately. Felipe Massa had a spin at turn 3 on the first lap, was last, and pushed his way all the way up to ninth. So I think that was pretty good for him. But Ferrari had a woeful day. They just had no race pace, as did the Mercedes. Well, the Mercedes actually had more race pace, but they couldn't get past Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg was that good. But Ferrari will be scratching their heads, and this will be a weekend that they definitely don't want to remember. So Sebastian Vettel has a 73-point lead. He's got to win this weekend in Japan, and Alonso's got to finish outside the top 8, and basically that's the championship decided. But I don't think we're looking at that championship anymore. I think we know that Vettel's got this one very easily. It's all now about the second position in the team championship, which is very, very close between Lotus, Mercedes, and Ferrari. So expect all of those 6 drivers, besides Webber and Vettel leading the pack in Japan this weekend, expect those other 6 drivers to really be fighting for the points and the podium positions from now until the end of the season. A terrific race, brilliant from Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull again. But you got to say, the star of the race yesterday, without a doubt, was the Sauber driver, Nico Hülkenberg. And as always, our Formula One report brought to us by
Pirelli and Tiger Wheel and Tyre. Stand a chance to win a trip to any 2014 F1 Grand Prix. Find out more at twt.to.
Win a trip for 2 to any 2014 Formula One Grand Prix of your choice. Plus, you can double your chances when you buy any 2 or more Pirelli tyres. Get to your nearest Tiger Wheel and Tyre to enter. Only at
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.
Beautiful.
Gears with Sasha Martinengo.